a little bit.
Happy Friday, or whatever it is, or however it is you're counting your days lately. Thank you for tuning in today. Today, I'm really excited to have guest on. Her name is Calsin Hoyle. She's the owner of Molecular Foods and Cocktail, which is a like a just a science-based cocktail service based out of here in DC. I've been in love with her business since the day I was introduced to it. You're going to love her too after this interview, but don't take my word for it. Here's Calsin to tell you more. Hey, Calsin, how are
Hi,
you?
everyone. Good. How are you?
Good, good.
Good, good,
Well,
good.
let everybody know, who you are and what your business is and all that fun stuff. Let the people know.
Absolutely. So my name is Calsin Hoyle. I am based out of the DC area, and I own a business called Molecular Food and Cocktails. I'm a mom, wife, and reside in the DC metro area. So all my work is centered around that metro geographical area. So the business started about 8 years ago, and I started it as a kid event business. So initially, when I started, and I still do it, it started off as STEM kids. So I do have a science background, and I always have have had this passion about, everyone being in love with science, because I feel like that's one of those kind of like, upper brow things that people feel like it's not approachable. So but I've always wanted to make it approachable, fun, or share with kids how that can be, something that's not cool. So I started the kid business about 8 years ago, and about 2 years ago, I got a lot of requests from the parents saying like, "Oh my God, I wish I had a science party." So that's where Molecular Food and Cocktails grew from. So it's like an expansion of the STEM kids business, but this one is geared towards adults. So obviously, adults like nice things like cocktails and liquor. So I infused cocktails or desserts into the offerings or the services that I offer. So, and basically what that means is everything we do or everything that we offer to the clients, they all have like a science twist to it. So we use liquid nitrogen to prepare the ice cream if we're doing a dessert station. If it's cocktails, we always pick like one or two signature drinks and, take it to the next step with either make it sciencey, make smoke bubbles, or make it change color. So we always have an element of an interactive science experiment to the cocktails or desserts.
I think that's the one thing that I've really enjoyed about your business is that you're
Mm-hmm.
not one. I mean, yes, like molecular cuisine has been out there for quite some time. So
Mm-hmm.
although you're hardly the first person to get into the market, most of
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like they'll do the little caviar, like they'll do savory, right? They'll do like the
Right.
caviar,
Mm-hmm.
jelly over fish, and really interesting sort of savory components to molecular. You see that a lot. And then
Right.
when you see it in drinks, you see it always in like a very, I don't want to say basic way, but in a sort of very like not outside of the box thinking. So what I've always really enjoyed your drinks is like,
Mm-hmm.
you'll have all sort of like different combinations, and you'll incorporate ice
Right.
cream, and you do fun
Right.
colors, and it doesn't have
Right.
to include alcohol.
Right.
So it can be family friendly,
Absolutely.
which
Yeah.
is the great part of that. And it when you started the business, was that always the intention, was to like infuse that sense of fun and whimsy into your business? Or did that kind of
So
come
that's
in
the
afterwards?
so that's the general philosophy from when doing the kids business to so it has to be that fun element. So whatever I do, I always have that in mind. So if I'm looking at, and when you mentioned that it's it doesn't have to be adult, because I do a lot of bar mitzvahs as well. So it could be
Right.
mocktails, right? So
Yeah.
I always start from there. Like I would take, the brief and look at it and see what can I do. If they have a favorite drink, I try to envision how you can do an experiment with that drink. Like, how can you make it more interactive? Can you print on it using a method where it's live? And so, because I always want to create a food or bar station where people are talking about it, they're asking questions, it's fun, it's,
Yeah.
theatric, it's interactive, it has to, it always has to has to have an element of, you know, um, a visual element where someone, oh my God, I want to go that and try that. I go there and try that. I wonder how it tastes like, or how are you making that? And then, that's when I get an opportunity to, describe the chemistry behind the little ice body crystals in making the ice cream. That's when I get to nerd out a little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you deal with, because I remember, so when you and I first met, we'll just backtrack a little bit. We'll do a little story time. Calsin and I first met
Mm-hmm.
because of District Bliss events. So shout out to Sarah if you're watching. Hey. So
Hey,
Sarah
Sarah.
runs yeah, exactly. She runs a group called District Bliss. It's a networking group for creative event professionals. And she did this sort of
Mm-hmm.
like Valentine's Day thing last year. And that's, and she featured you doing the different cocktails and all that
Right.
fun stuff. I remember, so from a layperson perspective, I remember a lot
Mm-hmm.
of apprehension on the part of people to like touch the liquid nitrogen and to handle the
Mm-hmm.
gloves and the equipment. And do you find that adults are worse or better than children when it comes
Oh
to
my gosh.
trying all the fun sciencey stuff? Uh,
That's an interesting question. I think when you it would depend on the age of the kids. So younger kids are
oh.
so fun. When the kids are a little bit like going into tweens, and I have soon to be twins, so I'm speaking from experience. So like the younger kids, it's so easy to please them. Like, I don't know, you just blow something and they get excited. It's so easy. So that's a difficult question. I mean, I would say kids are easier, but it's fun doing it with adults because it doesn't require a lot of, once you just explain the concept, everybody gets it, and it's quick. So it's not as, you don't have to be as involved. There's not much hand holding when you're, doing an event and that specific event was actually a DIY craft cocktail
Right.
class, right? Kind of thing. Yeah. So it was very intimate. We didn't have a lot of people. So there was opportunities for everybody to touch each and everything and make a couple of drinks, right? So,
Yeah, more than a couple in some instances. I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just going to say that there were more than a couple of drinks being poured that afternoon.
right. For that specific event, it was cocktails and desserts, right? So we combined almost two of the favorite things that everybody likes, liquor and desserts, and had a jolly good time, right?
Yeah, it was just so much fun. And, and so after that, I kept seeing you like a different, we, like you and I sat together to do sort of like a coffee chat and get to know each other. And then, we kind of saw each other different networking events from there. And so kind of going into this where this division of your business is relatively new. So as you mentioned, you've been in business for 8 years, but the adult side, this cocktail side, was like a relatively new endeavor. How have all your clients rebooked? Like what's what's life like in your camp these days?
Yeah, life is interesting. So I had probably this March I had maybe 4 events.
Okay.
So one is definitely rescheduled. So a couple of them were in collaboration with catering companies. I had a wedding. Definitely the wedding was postponed because it was right in May. So it's definitely not happening. So, it's been a lot of rescheduling, and I think that's the uncertainty because nobody knows what's going to happen. So like even if they reschedule, they haven't given me a date. They haven't said like okay, or we haven't discussed dates. Because I think what I do is not one of the. It's almost like an add-on service. So I feel like you know, it's one of those things that people will look at later. Like I think if you have a wedding, your most priority vendor right now is the venue, right?
Right.
And the catering, like food, venue, and I think maybe the priest who's going to marry you, right? You're
Right. Right.
not
Right.
you're not thinking about the late night after snack, very cool sciencey experiment that's going to happen at X hours, right? So I feel like specifically for me, it's one of those things that you kind of have to wait and see where the dust settles. If they found a venue, fine. Because if they find a new venue, is the new venue willing to bring other vendors, including the catering company, or what are the rules of the new venue? So I feel like it's a lot of moving pieces that it's
Yeah.
very early for me to even say with certainty that I have a date and my client rebooked. It's gonna be very very great because I still had to say
Right.
it's not the same. Yeah.
It's not as cut and dry for
No.
your
Yeah.
business. And
Yeah.
we were talking just before we went live
Hmm.
about that they're going to for anybody who's out there who is maybe not involved with the events industry and is kind of
Hmm.
looking to these chats that I'm having as sort of direction.
Hmm.
There are a lot of vendors who still don't know, like
Hmm.
what are these rules going to be going forward? If is it are we going to be subject to state and government restrictions when it comes to square footage per person, and what does social distancing mean when it comes time for a wedding? And I was talking to somebody else last week. It's all well and good to talk about social distancing, but once people get 3 tequilas and a half a bottle of wine in them,
Yeah.
how great is
Yeah.
their social distancing skills going to be when all they want to do is like
Mhm.
love on you and hug you and wish you congratulations? They're not.
They're not
It's going to be quite
a
it's going to be
challenge.
quite a
Yeah.
challenge. And you were
Right.
talking about the interactive food stations. People really love buffet lines and they love
Mhm.
interactive food stations, but that may not be possible.
They're the same. No, because it's a lot of open air prep or open air service, which I think a lot. And for me as a vendor, because most of my sessions are that open. You want to see the ice cream being made. You want to see the cocktail being crafted and shaken and made into this fantastic drink, right? But it's a lot of open air exposure for, and like people are standing around the food station. How is that going to change? Because I feel like for catering companies or people who provide food and drinks, you want to minimize the handling the food from the kitchen to the table as much as possible because that limits exposure and it just kind of like minimizes the um, opportunity for spreading, the disease. So, for someone like me who's like an add-on, it's so easy to just say like how do I restructure my services to fit into this new world,
Right.
or am I going to be eliminated entirely? You have to think about that, or even for other vendors who work, like how can I provide my services to either enhance these new policies or make it easy for them so that they don't have to worry about that, you know?
Maybe you become like one of those dunk tanks where people
Dun-
where like we're like or like a like have you ever seen the Pope Mobile where he stands on a glass box so that and
and have
maybe
like with Purell, like a Purell dunk
or
tank.
something, yeah, like you stand in the glass box, you do your thing within the glass box, And then people get like handed their cocktail from
From
like a
like a
dispenser.
hole in the wall.
Yeah, like a hole in the wall or something, like a dispenser. And then
Oh
you could
my
do it like
God.
incubator style, right? Like you could put it out with a glove. Or
Oh
actually
my
that,
gosh,
that would be
yeah.
really hilarious, wouldn't it? If like you were
That
standing on
would
one
be
side and you put your hands in and then you were to do what you were to do.
and then put it out. It's wild because I was actually even thinking, like, do you have like have you seen the square kind of like a tent
The
you walk through and they spray you for like for contamination, like
oh yeah, yeah,
this
sure.
protocol that they usually
Yeah,
have,
yeah, yeah.
right? So you walk
Yeah, like a
through and
hazmat
they,
tech. Yeah,
hazmat tank or a hazmat tent, so it's like, and then you walk through with your ice cream and they spray your like, how is it going to work?
right, right. And then you have to talk about like, like all these chemicals that we'll be ingesting. Um, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I think it's going to be
And
really interesting.
and even if to make it like a standard thing, is that going to change the regulations for the food industry? I mean, where people are required to go in
It
and
has
get
to.
certified,
Yeah,
and say I am corona free or corona like kosher. Like a lot of
yeah.
the bar mitzvah families, like you have to be kosher certified. Is it going to be a new standard that people in the food and drink industry have to think about? You know, having to go like a step to go through. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it could be as complicated, I guess, as we want to make it, but it could also be sort of like a tip certification, right? Like if
Right.
you are, if you're out there and you are someone that wants to provide um, bar services, alcoholic bar services, then you have to become. I forget what TIPS stands for. If you remember what TIPS stands for, let me know down there. I did it a
Right.
very long time ago.
I
Um,
probably my notes right there.
right, exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
But you have to, as a bartending service, you have to get that done.
Yep.
And it's really, it's not a very involved thing. You have to just kind of take the course. It's like a
Mhm.
half a day and pass a test and
It's
you
a
say that you
day. I think it
understand.
was like it was a full day.
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. And you pay the fee and you get your certification and then
Hmm.
you redo it every once in a while. So it's really not.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be like so complicated, but I think you're right. I think that as we go forward, there will have to
Right.
be some sort of
That's
um,
standard. Yeah.
standard because we were talking about liability, especially when you have both food and alcohol into play.
Hmm.
There are I'm sure there are going to be you know issues of liability, like what I mean, because we were talking about like what happens if someone gets sick at your event, but how do you know if they got sick at your event? They could leave that night, go to a McDonald's and get sick at one of these fast food restaurants. Like there's
Right. I
no.
mean, I already had special insurance because I work with liquid nitrogen, and
Mm,
for the prep and service of liquid nitrogen, you always have to have a special kind of insurance. So businesses that work with that, they always have work with insurance companies that provide cover for companies, businesses like us. So, I don't know if it's going to be an additional clause in there regarding the coronavirus, um, because I had to get it just because of, it's approachable liquid nitrogen is, but when it's mishandled or people don't know how to work with it, it can cause serious injury. So I've always had to, be certified and trained and know how to work with it anyway. So in terms of, a disease like this, very, you know, and the thing about the coronavirus, even if you get certified, right, you can still transmit it even when you're not showing symptoms. So that it's really like a gray area anyway, if we were to start from the beginning, because, you might get certified today and a week from today, you get sick. So your certification doesn't mean anything,
Well,
right?
I mean, it's really kind of, but then right, because you're absolutely right. Because the same argument can be made is that, if we start to impose restrictions on businesses, food service providers and beverage
Mm-hmm.
service providers, special corona provisions, then why aren't we doing that for pneumonia or flu,
Or have, yeah, I mean,
pink eye,
yeah.
or the myriad of strep throat, mono,
Yeah.
at the like salmonella. People have a greater
They
chance of getting
do,
salmonella.
they do have very strict, for if you have to work in a kitchen when you go through Southborough. I went through that.
Yeah,
So they're
sure.
very, there are some diseases that are very, very, very infectious and dangerous. So
Yes.
they have rules for that. So I don't know if it's going to be the same protocol that you have to go through the same, checking if someone is sick, checking their temperature, making sure your staff is not running a fever, and if they're sick, you send them home immediately, that kind of thing. So it's just one of those things that it's really like a gray area, because I think since it's very new, nobody has ever had to deal with this. Because I think even if it's salmonella, you kind of know what to do, like stay home for X amount of time. And,
Yeah.
with coronavirus, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting. Sorry, I'm just making sure that we're still okay on my phone. I am so gun shy at this point in time. I've had like a lot of technical issues. So if you catch me, if anybody else catches me out there, don't I'm trying to be very focused and very, streamlined in my approach here. But I'm also trying to make sure that, we're not just talking into thin air.
Right.
because that's a thing. But so I mean, so we've talked about like liability and business and and all of that sort of stuff. But like how has now your kids are home. You
Yeah.
mentioned that your children are home. Have how has that impacted them? Like, are you finding like you're all kind of like family fun time?
Right.
Is it because they're at that age where they still have to go to school, but they might be a little bit rebellious about going to school? Um,
Yeah.
so
So
how
yeah.
how is that?
So last week was spring break. Was our planned spring break. So
Okay.
I literally just let them bum out. If they wanted to lay on the couch all day, that's what I just let them do. If they wanted
No
to go
problem. You're like,
count the
whatever,
birds,
whatever. It's
whatever,
fine.
if they want to go out and count the birds, just do whatever. So
Right.
it was free fall. Last week was free fall. So this week it's been a little bit distracted because school, of course, the virtual learning is back in session. So the teachers are sending work, and I have a middle schooler and a third grader. So, it's been the first week of them getting the homeschool concept or reality. Like it's serious work. You wake up in the morning, get
Right.
ready and start working. It's
There's still
not like
structure.
last week.
You still have to do stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They cannot go to the park or the playground because,
Yeah.
of course, you know. So
Sure.
we've been trying to walk the dogs together, and just they're in charge of walking her and taking her out to use the bathroom or whatever. But it's really. They've had a lot of Zoom calls, so they still get to see their friends. But I
Oh, good.
think for them, it's really strange because they don't understand, like, why do we have to stay home and do all this work still for school. Like
Right.
this
Right.
morning, literally my third grader was like, the first thing he told me is like, I hate homeschool.
You're like
when
same kid, same.
he was like, he asked me, when does homeschooling end? I was like, I don't know, buddy. I don't know. We got to chug. So today, like, they had PE, for example, and some
Okay.
random stuff. So I'm a little bit relaxed today and just not going hard at it and just letting them dictate, because I want them to not hate it. I failed
Right.
because my son today told me he does not like homeschool. But
But
uh,
right.
I
You
still
tried.
want them. I tried, but it's new to them, so it's really just trying to make sure that they're happy, and
Well,
kind
it's
of
new. It's
try
new
it.
for everybody. It's new for you.
Yeah, yeah,
It's new for your family. It's new
right.
all across the board.
Yeah. So the most exciting thing for me was the science part of it because for
Sure.
the science project and stuff, I have all the supplies, well, the garage
Um,
is full of stuff. So the science part is fun, you know.
right.
I was kind of like trying to unearth everything that I've collected over the years, right? For all these science parties for
I love
kids.
it.
And it's a lot. Like I think, I haven't thought about it, but it's something that I think I can even do a live with my kids for STEM kids and just show all these activities. And like my son came to me the other day and he was like, we were watching something on YouTube about launching rockets. Guess what? I have a rocket to launch.
You should put out some videos. I mean, why not? I'm seeing all sorts of, I'm seeing all sorts of like family videos putting out there. Just,
Yeah.
if not necessarily for the branding of it, just for the inspiration of it. Because I bet your science experiments kick other science experiments in the butt. I like kicked them
Yeah.
squarely and launched them
Yeah.
into the
I
next
mean,
grade. I'm gonna make that bet.
I think that it's the same because, of course, it's science experiments that are very. If you're in the STEM field, you've probably seen them. It's probably
Right.
like this week, I wanted to try something with indicators, and I have all that stuff in the garage. That's what I always thought I was hoarding until like they're joking about extreme couponers. Like everybody used to make
Yeah.
fun of extreme, right? And now who's laughing now?
Yeah, exactly. Who's laughing now? You know, make fun of my 15 gallons of Tide and
20,
15
20 rolls of
bazillion,
toilet paper.
yeah, zipper,
Yeah,
yeah, all the toilet paper.
yeah,
But it's pretty funny, but it sounds to me like you all are keeping at least a sense of humor about it,
yeah.
which I think is really important. I think having that sense of just I don't want to call it lightheartedness, because certainly this is a very serious situation. But having that sense of
Mm-hmm.
of just not taking on the full weight of everything happening, I think is important, because
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be an important driver going forward.
Mm-hmm.
But now, so I mean,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, so your family, they must be accustomed to like the whole scientific aspect of calcium, into the future. But are you a family that cooks? Like, do you like to cook? Was cooking a thing for
Oh
you?
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I
Okay,
love to cook.
so all
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
so this whole situation didn't catch you completely off guard. Like me personally,
No.
I've been living off of omelets,
Oh
because
really?
yeah, you know what, I go in and out of cooking, and I also like to support the restaurant industry and support businesses. I use that as an excuse. Girl, don't listen to
Right.
me.
Yeah.
I don't like
Yeah.
to cook at home because
Right. Right.
because it's just me. So I go out to eat pretty frequently.
It's easier.
Um,
Yeah.
but are you then getting experimental in what you're trying, or is your
So
family like asking for favorites?
so
Oh,
I'm not a baker, so I
okay.
don't bake a lot, but I cook a lot. So
Okay. That's good.
I'm originally from East Africa, so we do a lot
Oh,
of spices. So all my
okay.
food always curry based and spicy. That way, not hot spicy, but spicy. So I'm trying to do a lot of the cooking with my kids. So like teaching them the very traditional recipes that are Kenyan, or like the bread. Everybody's making sourdough bread. I was trying to teach my son how to make the flat bread. It's called chapati.
Oh, yeah. Mm.
It's like
Yeah,
naan, right? It's like
yeah.
naan or paratha, the very flat bread. So I've been trying to teach them like the basics like that. But my family, it doesn't eat everything that I make.
Poor mom.
Oh my
Um,
God. They
yeah, but
like,
I would bet that
they
that's
don't like,
probably fairly common, but go ahead.
it is. they're like common, like not spicy, just basic. So I always just revert back to baking the chicken, you know. So if I do anything experimental, it's just for me and maybe the kids, maybe, like, you know, maybe. So, you know, but at this point, with everything going on, it's been just survival cooking, like whatever we can make, if it's not as involved as teaching or making like a flatbread or something like that, it's just doing it. And then I run a lot, so
Oh,
I
yeah.
did injure myself a couple of weeks ago. So
Oh,
I've been trying to to be healthy cooking so that because I don't have the outlets of running off the calories that I'm taking in. So I've been trying to be really, not careful, but put a little bit
conscientious.
more thought in,
Yeah.
yeah, of what I'm eating, just so that it doesn't go out of, get out of hand.
No
Because I
COVID,
eat my
no
feelings,
COVID-19
you
at
know.
the Halcyon household.
I
That's
mean,
for
I eat
sure.
my feelings, and bread soaks up all my, sadness and stress and everything. So
I love that you're one
oh,
of the
so,
few people I know who are willing
yeah.
to admit that. But you're also in great shape. So you're willing to admit that you enjoy a really great sort of carby, fattening meal, but
Oh,
you
yeah.
also run it off.
Yeah.
So it's not like,
Yeah.
you
Right.
know, it's
Yeah.
all about balance, you know.
It is. Yeah, it is. Because I think the first 2 weeks, I remember it was really like a mix of emotions, right? First,
Yeah,
you don't believe that it's happening because it happened so quick, so abrupt, and very sudden, right? So
yeah.
the first week, I think I ran every day and so that was the cause of my injury. So it was really like a roller coaster of emotions, it was unbelievable, shock, sadness, fear, right? Because you didn't know what was coming next, right? And of course, all loss of income that happened because of all the rescheduling and all this stuff, you know, just a sense of not knowing what's coming next. So, I feel like it was really tough the first 2 or 3 weeks, So my outlet was running, and then I ran too much, and I injured my foot, so I can't run anymore. So I feel like it's been like a roller coaster of emotions, just trying to get a grip of everything that's going on.
Yeah, and and it's one of those things where when yeah, I'm sure you relied heavily on running as a coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
but what other ways, I mean, I mean, obviously, like you have your family to get into order, and you have your business matters to attend to. But what
Mm-hmm.
other things have you been doing? As your coping mechanism, like, are you someone that throws yourself into books? Do you
Mm-hmm.
do a lot of self-care? Like, now, in the absence of running, what are you doing for yourself?
So I recently just started trying teaching myself how to take cocktail photography shots, like taking
Okay.
cocktail or food shots that are a little bit more involved. So and like I think we talked about it earlier, but
Yeah.
photography. So I took up photography as my outlet, and
Right.
just trying to learn how I can convey my services of what I offer in photography. So, it started off as just basic cocktail shots, and I'm hoping to create these scientific scenes with my cocktails or desserts or food that are stuff that I do or offer with my services in, like, with the science, give them my personality or give
Right.
them my science perspective of how I envision like a gin and tonic or whatever drink it is. So
Right.
that's been my outlet, like just learning, lighting, composition, shots, all this photography lingo that I
Well, your
wanted to
Instagram is
learn.
fabulous. I was looking at some of the
Yeah,
photos today. I mean, I see them sort of like, in part and parcel as I go through, like a regular day of scrolling.
hmm
But then I was looking through and I was like, wow, these are really these are really great photos. Are you using like your
right.
iPhone primarily, or do you have external equipment, or like what are you
So
doing?
I'm using my DSLR,
Okay.
and because of the constraints of where you can go, and it's been like really fun, actually. I unexpectedly fun to try and see what's available with me right now at home that I can use to elevate a shot, right? So I've tried my best to use natural lighting because I don't have like extreme good lighting. I'm using like IKEA pieces here and there, props. If it's flowers, I just go for a walk and find what's outside. And then I started growing like our herb garden so that in case I need fresh mint and fresh herbs and stuff like that, I have that. But it's really been fun and interesting, trying to do, try to rig like setups to, because usually what happens is I sketch a concept, right? I actually had like a little sketchbook. I sketched the
Oh,
concept of what I think. I look at a drink. The other day I was looking at a tequila sunrise, right?
okay.
So it was a play on, sunrise, the sky, tequila, orange margaritas, right? So I had the shot. I wanted to float the garnish on top of the drink, right? To appear like it's floating, and then have like clouds with cotton candy. So I did a sketch, and I knew for me to rig it that way, I needed like, poles on each side, and I used fish wire to suspend it, and so it's made me,
That's awesome.
and I know I spend it, I can take almost a full day just trying to, obsess about, because that's my personality. Usually when I get into something, I just kind of get lost. My poor kids are like, we haven't had lunch.
You're like,
uh,
lesson for today, kids, is how to make a sandwich. Right? Or like, let's just like, I don't know if we get homeschooling credit for that, but
right, like
uh,
throw an orange slice. You want an orange
yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I'll teach you how to peel oranges and make them float over cocktails.
slice?
We'll
Right,
call it
right.
arts and crafts. There we go.
Right,
Yeah,
right, right, right.
there we go.
Yeah,
Oh my God, but that sounds like
there's
a
the
lot of
craft. Yeah,
yeah, that sounds like a
right.
lot of fun. Well, I mean, and you never know.
It's yeah.
That's the one thing that I've said is that personally, I've kind of leaned hard into education, and aside from doing this series
hmm
and getting going forward with other projects that I had in mind, is
hmm
I'm also spending a lot of time on education that I haven't had the time to sort of wrap up in my career. Um,
hmm
and I like personally, I feel that's something that's going to never leave you.
hmm
Like education, world comes to a complete collapse.
hmm
That's something that you can always parlay into, another business venture or another thing that you're doing, depending on, how things
Absolutely.
go in the world,
hmm
you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely.
But
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just not photography as well. There's so many courses that I've always wanted to, take, just in general, not just about what I do, but just opportunities that, I've always wanted to explore, right? Now you have the time,
right,
so it's, yeah, or even just thinking ahead, like, the future of work. So how will you fit in 10 or 15 years from now?
right,
As a person, not even just business, like how is the future of work going to look like? And how are you going to
right.
fit into that world? Like what skills right now can parlay or move you towards that direction, or what can you learn right now to move you towards that direction? Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's like a lot of strategic thinking is where it's
hmm
at. Like I understand people who, are in a very rough place right now in terms of
Mhm.
just not being able to sort of think about any sort of future, or just staying afloat. Totally get that, and I totally respect that. And that's their coping mechanism, right? That's the way that they're coping with what's happening
Mhm.
in the world right now. But I think
Mhm.
that if you can pull it together and you can, find your hustle, then
Mhm.
like it just sounds to me like there are a lot of people who are forward thinking, in that
Mhm.
respect. Now, and you had we had talked a little bit about how you were connecting with other people in the
Mhm.
local business and sort of and in other markets.
Mhm.
What kind of big, like, major lessons have you been learning by connecting with other people outside of not just in the events
Okay.
industry, but just like general
Mhm.
industry?
So I think the biggest takeaway is like, um, I think how everything is changing. So for me, from everything that I've seen across the board, the future seems to be a virtual working environment, uh, where it's more, you know, a lot of working from home, a lot of remote working, or more so, I think the future looks like people will focus more on doing stuff that brings meaning to their life. I think being home and people think that you can work from home,
Yeah.
people are trying to evaluate, like, is it worth me spending 2 hours on the road going to this office downtown versus if I can just work from home and give those 2 extra hours to my family, which is better. Like, you know, so it's overall, I think the biggest thing is learning that I think the future of work is going to be a virtual working environment,
Yeah.
where, you can do a lot of tasks, jobs, and everything remotely. Um,
Right.
and so it's been just trying to see, like, your place as a person, not even just business wise, but your place as a person in that world. Because I think I'm a millennial. I was right on the cusp, like I'm a 80, right?
Gotcha.
So social media, or um, pushing yourself out there, has always been a struggle for me. But I think with the younger generation and younger kids, that's all they know, right?
Right.
So I think that's where everything is moving. Software or social media and marketing right now is essentially mainly online, right?
Yeah. Really.
And even with content, right? Right now, video is king. Like, if you want to get any traction, they always say you have to create a video, or that's where content and consumption of content and creation of content is going to be.
Right.
So, and even when I think I was on a forum the other day, someone was saying, like, try to, embrace this opportunity to learn about, softwares like Zoom and WebEx and, like the one you're using today, to learn how you can make it work for you, because that is going to be the reality and what's common, right? Everyone will be doing something online, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's the
Yeah.
biggest takeaway. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's been a lot of, I like, I know it's probably going to upset a good percentage of people to hear
Mm-hmm.
it. But I think going into the future, this is a young person's game. I think that
Mm-hmm.
I think that when we're talking about business savvy and business viability,
Mm-hmm.
and how to reposition, because everyone's going to have to adjust. There isn't anyone in the events industry that isn't going to have to make some sort of an adjustment in some way going forward, right? So we're all
Mm-hmm.
there. Every single one of us is going to have to reposition ourselves somehow. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like the older generations, if they're not
Mm-hmm.
willing to adapt and pivot and make those changes in their business,
Mm-hmm.
are just going to fold if they haven't folded already. I've already seen
Mm-hmm.
several companies that have decided to throw in their hat because they just feel like, I've been in business for 30, 40 years. I don't have it in me to run this until the end of its course. I'm good. I was close enough to retirement, or I should have been retired, and then go forward from there. Which then leaves people squarely in this generation, this sort of like, mid-career generation. But really, we're going to see a lot of that, a lot of that pathway being forged by these younger people who are just exiting college programs and just getting into the workforce, because they're the ones with the energy. They are the ones with the future still ahead of them, and that can ride this out. They have not been through the 2008 economic disaster. They were not through 9/11. They were not, I had Brian Morse on the phone, on the line a couple weeks back. He and I went deep dive. We were talking about New York City in the 70s. Like we were talking about that. But like, these kids, I want to use that term very loosely because they're not children. They're young. They're adults. They're younger adults, are coming to it with a fresh perspective and will lead the way. That is who we should be looking to. And I know that's not going to be a very popular opinion, because I know that a lot of people out there are talking a good game about how we should be looking to the industry leaders and the experts and the leaders and the experts and leaders and the experts. And I'm like, leaders and experts are not going to drive this industry going forward. Sorry, they're just not. It's going to be the Twitch users. It's going to be the TikTok users. Do you use?
Yeah.
Have you used it yet? Have you looked into that?
Yeah, I signed up a couple of months ago. It's it's a different animal. It's fast paced. It's very, it's, oh my God, it was it was overwhelming. I was less interested once I saw how they handle data, and some privacy issues for me were a little bit concerning, that I was like, oh, you know what, I can wait. But I think, and it's not going to be the last one. There's going to be another one and another one and another. So you don't always have to jump on everything. So that's how I think. But I know video is king. So it doesn't matter where it is. It could be Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. But YouTube, whatever.
I think we're losing.
For someone like me, it takes longer.
Okay. I think your connection is cutting in a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm saying, like, it's one of those things that you don't have to jump on anything. You have to find what works best for you, and just adapt and pivot and change and learn quickly. But the good thing is, if you're willing to learn and are open to change, I think it's going to be okay, because you're always open to trying new things. Like, I think with Instagram as well, I was even looking into doing like IGTV, because I think that's going to be a big thing. They're trying to compete with YouTube. So if you're not big on YouTube, you can try IGTV, because the good thing about such platforms is your audience is worldwide, right?
Right.
So there's potential to expand your, markets to more eyes or whatever. For service-based businesses like us, it's not something that, I'm not going to offer my services to the whole world, but I can offer content that, the transverses borders and everything. But, it's a young people's game. You adapt or drown,
and that's what it is. It's there's always going to be, what's that saying? There's always going to be someone younger coming in behind you. So even if you're king of the hill, you're only king for so many years before someone else comes through with a better game, and certainly a better game plan.
Right.
It's gonna be interesting. you
Right.
know?
Are you working on anything on Insta? What are your content plans for Trish events? Like, how are you?
Yeah, for me, it's been an interesting journey, right? Because
Mhm,
I devoted a lot of time and effort into Instagram up
mhm.
until I found out that people were buying followers. Now, this was before the last batch of algorithm changes. So this
Okay.
was maybe going back maybe 2 or 3 years. And I would see
Mhm,
like these other vendors, and they would have like 20,000 followers and 30,000 followers, and I'm like, how do they get like over 10,000 and I'm struggling over here and I don't get it. Until I
mhm,
start like doing that deep dive, because
mhm,
me at my heart, I'm a detective, right?
mhm,
And I think that's what's always made me very good at being a planner, is
mhm,
that I like investigating. I like pulling it apart at the seams, seeing how it works,
mhm,
and and then putting it all back together again.
mhm,
So for me, once I started deep diving into the analytics and the hashtags
mhm,
and how people promoted their content, and
mhm,
then it's like once you start going through the accounts and you start seeing that, like, oh yeah, that might be 10,000 followers, but 8,000 are bots. then
mhm, yeah.
then you start then the luster falls off,
Mhm,
and so the luster fell off for me. So I
mhm,
like my engagement on Instagram. I try to update that as I can,
mhm,
but really it's more of a calling card for me. like
mhm.
like I,
Yeah.
I use it as sort of like the opportunity for someone to say, oh, what do you do?
Right.
Here's an example of what I do. So
Right.
it's not something that drives a whole lot of leads for me.
Right.
Excuse me. But what I'm really finding, what I like is this video content, like you were talking about. I like the
Mhm,
opportunity to get out there and talk to people and relate to
mhm,
people, because ultimately that is what I do.
mhm,
That's what my business model is about. It's about connecting with people,
mhm,
finding out what makes their business tick, what makes them tick, so that when I'm
mhm,
putting together their wedding or their bat mitzvah or their social, or their corporate event, that
mhm,
they know that I'm the type of person that doesn't sort of treat them as a number. They have a
mhm,
sense of the way that I work. Um, so for me, it's been investigating alternate platforms like this.
mhm, mhm.
And then and I've also decided that I'm going to sit for my certifications this year, my CMP and my
Okay.
I have the time. I
I
finally have.
know you have the time. Yeah, it's a great opportunity, and at the same time, it's one of those things that I feel for me, what grounds me is when I think about my family who are still in Kenya, right?
Mm,
And for them, most of them, I think it's with everything stopped, it's about survival. For them, they're just
yeah,
mostly worried about how am I gonna get my next meal.
right.
So, I think that all things considered, we're very lucky.
So
And
lucky.
yeah,
Yeah,
we are, like all we have to worry about is, like the reschedules and everything. But when I talk to some of my family and friends back home, they really are in a different, you know, frame of mind, right?
yeah,
Because for them is they're not able to work, so they cannot get food.
right.
So their issues are a little bit more different. I mean, my family is in the country and they have a farm, so they can grow their food, right? And everything. But for people who are really struggling, it's you're either going to be sick because of the virus or you're going to be sick because you have no food. Their options are really not good, you know?
Right.
And so I think that always pulls me into this frame of mind or perspective of just being thankful that we're all healthy and, we're able to at least, get food on the table, right?
It's grounding. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Hmm.
great grounding energy, especially like you said, where I've said it from the beginning. I'm not. I find that I'm a lot more fortunate than others,
Hmm.
and I'm grateful for that. Truly,
Hmm.
I'm really
Yeah.
grateful that because that hasn't always been the case. I've certainly been
Hmm.
on the wrong end of catastrophes before,
Hmm.
but I'm just thankful that I'm not on the wrong end of this one. Knock on wood.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And hoping that there's a positive climb and
Yeah.
it doesn't go the other way, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's all we can do is just maintain a sense of positivity
Right.
until life dictates that we can't.
Right.
Um,
I have a question for you.
yeah.
What's your worst case scenario in the industry?
Ooh. My personal worst case, or like my overview worst case.
Both.
Okay.
Both.
All right. So my macro view, a worst case
Hmm.
scenario for the industry, is that we completely collapse. We just do. I mean, and it's certainly, it's not an unforeseen, not unforeseen, but not an unconscionable thing to
Hmm.
happen to an industry. I mean,
Hmm.
we are, as an industry, as the events and hospitality industry in this country, we do make up
Hmm.
a significant part of the gross
Economy.
national product of the economy.
Hmm.
But we are also expendable. We are not as indispensable as some of these other countries, especially in the Caribbean, that rely up to 80%, 90% of their GDP for tourism and hospitality and all these things.
Hmm.
So if we had to scale back tremendously, we would fall the way of farming, we would fall the way of cattle ranching, we would fall the way of coal mining, we would fall the way of a lot of things. Where 100 years ago, when 70% of the United States was all farms and cattle ranches and used for agricultural purposes, it would have been unthinkable to even suggest that
Hmm.
at a certain point in time we would become an
Hmm.
industrialized nation, and then that would be
Hmm.
our major output, and then and
Hmm.
that we would be flying in strawberries from South America. I mean, we fly in strawberries from South America.
Right.
A
Yeah.
hundred years ago, that would have been insane to think about.
Right.
But I
Right.
think, so I think that when we're talking about from the macro perspective, it's not that off the wall to think that that some hotels might close down and some venues might close down because there just will not be the need for hotels and venues, and without the hotels and venues, then the rest of us are all just going to fall off the map, really. But and so for
Hmm.
myself, from a micro perspective, for my own personal business, I think that if that it's what I'm working on, the certifications and everything for. I have a fairly long history in the hospitality and events industry, so I can keep finding positions,
Hmm.
to keep me through it if that's what I so choose to do.
Hmm.
But worst case scenario, and we don't need any event planners, any whatsoever. It's all right. I'll just keep thinking about other ways, maybe online, that I can pivot my business and
Hmm.
utilize my services that way. Um,
Hmm.
it's one of those things where, like I said, education will never leave you.
Yeah.
So just keep working on that educational
Hmm.
component. Certainly, doing these interviews is giving me a lot of inspiration,
Hmm.
and seeing how other people, kind of work on their businesses.
Hmm.
Um, and then we'll just kind of wait and see. Just keep, but every day, baby steps. Every day, do a little bit of something to keep yourself feeling productive.
Hmm.
That's about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
but what's
Absolutely.
your sort of like macro? What's your macro perspective? Hey, what's your macro and micro?
Yeah. I mean, I think same thing because I was already an add-on type of business. So I've always operated from a point of, it's a very niche kind of like service. So I always had that in the back of my mind anyway. But definitely for this, it's, it's one of those things that I see, like, for a lot of the work that I was going to do this year or envisioned doing this year was collaborative with catering companies.
Right.
So, I mean, if they go out of business or they don't exist, then I don't have collaborators. My
No,
whole
but you can always work
plan,
with hotels. You can always, you could,
right? I mean, it's
maybe.
I've from my experience, it's been not easier, but it's been harder to collaborate because they already have kitchens,
Right.
and a
Okay.
lot of the services that I do, they can just say we'll do it, unless I'm doing something super spectacular and out of the box, then they can just always fall back to their kitchen, right?
Right.
So I mean, for me, worst case scenario is just closing down shop and just focusing on, either the online aspect. But with I always look at every opportunities in everything. So if that's the case, then I think that will be an opportunity for me to either get into the training market where I train other business future or prospective business owners how to do what I do, because
Right.
I have social proof already. I know what works. I have 8 years experience working in the event industry.
Right.
But again, that also relies on the industry going back to how it was and people doing parties and gathering, right? So I don't know. It's just like
Yeah.
one of the things that I feel like it's evolving, you know?
That's what it is.
Um,
I'm pretty positive about that. I feel that you have the right mindset to evolve your business
mhm,
into something that kind of grows and changes. As you're not sort of like set in stone
mhm,
with how you work. So
right.
I think that's key. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I think that's pretty
Absolutely.
key. So all right, we are right now. We're at the hour mark. I want to be respectful of your time. I want to be respectful of everybody else's time. So final thought. The way I like to wrap these up. Um, so everything opens up, and we can do whatever we want to do.
Yeah.
What is the? Are you going out to eat somewhere? Are you going out to do something? Like, what are you doing right out of the gate?
Oh my God. So um it's a three pizza, right?
Oh,
So one,
good.
I don't I miss my gym so much. I
Okay.
go to Lifetime and I love that place. Oh my gosh. So that, okay. Number two places in DC that I can't stop thinking about since this thing so number one, it's a Kenyan restaurant called Swahili Village. It opened in DuPont Circle. So I'm hoping they survive and they're
Okay.
still there, right? And Chico's. So Chico's, I think they have two places. It's like Chinese Korean. They have the best brunch and food in DC. Oh my gosh! So I cannot stop thinking about those two places. Yeah, yeah. What about
Yeah.
you?
Same. I think it's going to be, I was kind of floating between Mexican and sushi because neither cuisines are something that I've ever done successfully, on my own. But I don't know that Korean Chinese Chico's. That
Oh,
sounds.
we should definitely do that
Yeah,
when
it might
every.
be like it might be a crawl. It might be like I because I'm at that point now where people are like, getting up with like really great ideas and they're like, "Oh, we should do that." And I'm just like, it might be like maybe 3 days where I'm just like, "Okay, all the guests
Right,
of the 3.0 show, and we're gonna do a 3-day crawl,
and
and you can join us at the following
stuff
restaurants because it's
there.
gonna be on.
There's
It's gonna be
stuff on
on."
faces. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think the delivering, I cannot tell you how many times I've contemplated ordering, driving to DC, doing a drive by. They have this crab
Yeah.
fried rice. Oh my gosh, Trish.
Crab fried rice.
Yeah.
Oh, you might talk me into that this weekend. I've been trying to be very good about it,
It's,
but you might
it's
talk me
called
into that.
Chico's. I think it's Chinese Korean. It's a blend. It's
Okay.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, anything mixed with Chinese is good with
That's
me,
good.
but just,
Yeah.
you know, it's
Yeah.
Chinese food. I
Yeah.
should specify Chinese food.
And they do like a daikon turmeric radish. Oh my God. Don't even get me started.
I am gonna go look up our menu right now.
Now, okay,
Right,
good.
right now. Oh, all right, all right. Well, thank you so much, and it was so good to see you and to chat with
Oh, me
you.
too. Yeah, thank
Oh my
you.
goodness. And thank you for setting our Friday off right.
Of
Um,
course, yeah. I
yeah,
miss I miss seeing you. I miss getting together and doing stuff. Yeah. So stay
happy days will be
healthy.
here again. Happy days will be
Yeah.
here again.
All
But all
right.
right. Thank you so much, and
Of
I
course.
will talk to
Yeah.
you soon.
Of course. Thank
Great.
you.
Have a great
All
day.
right. You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.